sports finds that sweet spot. Leader Fan Radio Network.
And that's a fact.
And KFAN. That's KFAN.com. 2 minutes and 32 seconds past 3 Central Standard Time. It is a Friday Football Beast edition of the Bumper to Bumper program on a, pretty balmy, I think, Friday afternoon here in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul. I am the host of the program. My name is Dan Barreiro, former Inkster and Wretch newspaper of the Twin Cities, and no, Guardsy's still not back. He's he's enjoying, I think, a respite in California, Southern California. The Golden Gopher Women's Club took it on the chin last night against USC, and their reward is they next get to play number 1 ranked UCLA. So Guardsy out again today. He will be back, I think, on Monday. Brett Blakemore is in that chair, and we'll be here in that chair until 6:30 tonight. I think we are indeed going the distance. I am out Sunday for sermons, which you may or may not know.
News to me, but
News
okay.
to you. And so I don't know if it's, I'm assuming it's probably Dave Sinkhole, Sinekin, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I have no idea. Or maybe they're doing best of, or maybe they're just going to go syndication. I had no idea. But I'm out Sunday, just for your information.
I mean, I'd be down for a little Packer NFL draft preview for 2 hours. That's fine by me.
It could very well, absolutely come to that. So, guest lineup today, no picks this week. So that'll be 2 consecutive weeks without Gerby, because last week he allegedly was suffering from laryngitis. We think it might be a bit more malignant of a story than that, a little less innocent. But we won't find out until pick segment for the Super Bowl, which will be a week from today. So right now we're at 2 guests scheduled. I hope Ben Gessling at 4:30 and Lavelle is scheduled for 5:30 this evening. As always, the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line is your way into the program, 64686. You can also hit the talkback line at iHeartMedia, or KFAN.com, I guess I should say. And then click on the microphone, and you have up to 30 seconds to say whatever you might be interested in getting into. I mentioned off the top of the program that we are indeed your when sports finds that sweet spot leader. We watch and listen to, many of us, some more than others, just an astonishing volume of sports activities, right? Your average sports rube, I don't know what the percentages are. I don't know if you broke it down like week by week, how many hours of that week. There are many people who will spend happily watching and listening to all the sports of their favorite teams. And if we're really honest about it, if we're brutally honest about it, there are often weeks in which, if you look back on it, you go, well, nothing really happened. But I keep doing it out of habit. I keep doing it because I find myself emotionally invested in this. Maybe I think it helps take my mind off some other more important issues. That it serves that purpose for lots of people. I don't want to go too deep into the psychology of it because there's lots of layers to it. But I think part of what keeps people at it also is, what if? What if there's a moment, either during action or even sometimes during a break in the action, where the sweet spot is located, the sweet spot is reached, the sort of moment where you go, God, that was unbelievable. That was compelling. That was emotional. That was shocking. That was any of a number of possible things where you go, I ain't going to forget that soon. And then at that point you go, well, this is why I invest all this time and trouble into stuff that's pretty meaningless in the grand scheme of things, right? And I will tell you that for me, and I think for a lot of folks out there, that moment, one of those moments was met, that sweet spot was reached last night, north of the border, in Montreal, where your favorite hockey team, the Minnesota Wild, were in action against the not-so-good Canadiens. And in the third period of a game that the Wild pretty much dominated start to finish, I think 4-0 was the final, if I'm not mistaken, there was one of those moments involving, of course, a Quebec native son who, interestingly enough, never really played for the Montreal Canadiens. And yet, everybody in that building knew that this was the retirement tour for this particular favorite son, one of the greatest hockey players, maybe, as Louis Nanny suggested last night, the most beloved single goaltender in the history of the game was in the net, and this was going to be it. So during a break in the action, this is what you could have heard and seen if you were actually watching the TV broadcast as well.
Les Canadiens envoient vers l'orange les Québécois Marc-André Fleury pour sa carrière légendaire. 5 participations au match des étoiles, un trophée Vizina, 3 coupes Stanley et le deuxième rang de tous les temps pour les victoires par un gardien de but dans la LNH. The Canadians would like to recognize Quebec native Marc-André Fleury on the legendary career. 5 All-Star appearances, 1 Vizina Trophy, 3 Stanley Cups, and a second place all-time for victories by an NHL goaltender. Félicitations Marc-André. Congratulations.
I don't even think you have to give a rat's ass about hockey, in all seriousness, to be moved by what took place last night. I was, and I'm the hockey ambassador. I'm sure Brett Blakemore was. Brett Blakemore, we've kidded about how much of a Flower fan he is. Were you blubbering last night? I was misting up.
Of course.
It was so classily done. And what's funny about it is, and of course it didn't hurt, that he pitched a shutout. And I'm sure many of you have seen the statistical nugget, first goalie in the league's history to record a shutout as a teenager and at the age of 40 years or older. Can't make that part of it up either. But I noticed somebody in social media responding to that audio and video. Obviously, you couldn't see the video, but I wanted to play every minute of it to make the point. How strong the reaction was. He's like, what's wrong with those people there? He never even played there. And I'm thinking, you don't get it, do you, buddy? You just don't get it. No, that's the beauty of it. That above and beyond, you know, the fact that he has had such a storied career, it's that in a place where he never was the home goalie, they said, doesn't matter. He is one of us, and he merits, even on a night when we're getting our rear ends handed to us, that we're not going to pout about it. We're not going to take it out on anybody. We're going to give him, he'll be able to tell his kids and grandkids and great-grandkids and cousins and so forth that I was there, the center of attention, the night sports found one of those sweet spots. That was as good as it gets because it does, what's in all that that ovation and all that reaction? It's memories, it's respect, It's congratulations. It's emotional investment, even if those folks never had a chance to root for him in Montreal, as a member of the team. They're a knowledgeable audience. They understand his significance to the National Hockey League. And as I mentioned earlier, there may not be a more beloved goaltender. Later, the game ends. He gets mobbed by his teammates, to be expected. And then you see a bunch of players waiting after getting their rear ends handed to them 4-0 to shake his hands, to congratulate him. That's as good a night as that's as good a sports night. That's as good a sweet spot as you can ever hit in the world of sports. Am I wrong?
You're 100% right. And Montreal makes our one of us love look like nothing, look like we don't care at all, because that's one of their own, and they adored him even though he just shut him out 4-0.
That's it. I don't even know. Would we be that gracious? I'm not sure. I'm not sure any market would. To be honest with you.
Needs another 30 years before he gets to Fleury territory. But if he does, are we going to cheer him on the way out, or are we going to boo him because he's kicking our ass with the Stars?
Well, the truth of the matter is that, as I mentioned, I don't even think you have to be. Obviously, it helps if you're a hockey fan and you know the history. I don't think necessarily that has to be. That even has to matter. It's just such good theater. And part of what elevated it for me, whether it should or not, I melt when I hear a PA announcer speaking another language. So you got first, and it's a good voice, by the way. First he's speaking in French, and then it's obviously English. And it just the whole thing was so classily done. I assume it was set up. I'm sure they must have talked about it. It was during a break in the third period, was it not? I think that's when it took place. And in this case, I know the official, the referee, they also, I think, made a point of saying, we're going to let this play out as long. We're not going to blow the whistle. We're going to let this play out as long. They let it breathe, let alone the broadcasters letting it breathe. The Zebras let it breathe, which I thought was also a part of what made it such a special night. And I looked on the close-up shots of Flower because, you're waiting, is he going to just blubber? Is he going to lose it? And it looked to me like he was close. He was just trying to kind of hold it together a little bit, acknowledge. Then it was almost like, I'm sheepish. I don't want to be this much the center of attention. But what a feeling that must be for a local Sun, right? In all seriousness. Of all, he's got to hit 1 million honors, and he's going to have a bunch more, and people are going to salute him here and elsewhere once again. But I just wonder what that must have felt like for him to be in that situation in front of fans who, as I said, it wasn't like he'd been a hero, in terms of making incredibly, he had a couple circus saves even in the third period for the Montreal Canadiens. It never happened.
And what an honor it is for us to have him on our squad and be able to go to all these different farewell tours and see all of it. It's awesome. I got a keyword for you as well.
Let's do it.
If you want it. The Fan wants to give you a shot, put $1,000 in your hand at the National Cash Contest. Head to KFAN.com. Enter the keyword bank. The keyword is bank. KFAN.com. Keyword bank.
I'll let folks not, because we got a wide open 3 o'clock hour. Give me your nominations for other sweet spot moments like that you think rival that, or maybe you think exceed. And I'm not necessarily interested in getting into a ranking as one being better than the other. That's kind of silly. But ones that come to your mind, they can be local, they can be regional, they can be national, they can be international, that you think rival what we saw last night, because I don't think we're going to see anything like it again in our lifetime.
The Fan.
Rock out with Shine Down at the Target Center. Experience an electrifying night of powerful performances and chart-topping hits on the Dance Kid Dance Tour, July 28th, with special guests Bush and Morgan Wade. Get your tickets now to be a part of an unforgettable concert experience. KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Can I safely assume that if you want to bet on Pro Bowl skills competition, regardless of whatever the event or category is, that you can?
So I just flew back from Vegas yesterday, and I was in the Circa sports betting. I didn't place any wagers. They have this big wall. You name it. Power slap odds.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I guarantee it.
It's remarkable to me. I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I have not watched a minute of the skills. I don't think I'm going to. It looks like they're having fun, and there's nothing wrong with having fun. But no, none of it does anything for me. Let me know if you're going to. Maybe for some people, it's I got to have a football fix, even if it's not really football. So, and this is the off week. So, therefore, I'm going to, delve into it. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 646-86. The most recent comparison to this has to be when Mauer came out in catcher's gear to catch the first pitch of the ninth inning of his last game in 2018. Detroit understood the magnitude of the moment, told the Twins they would take the first pitch as well. That's a good one. No question. That was a sweet spot. That was also reaching a significant sweet spot. It wasn't just that it was Mauer's, last game. It was back to catcher, right? A position he had to leave largely because of injuries, head issues, etc. Yes, a number of people are nominating, the end of the 87 and 1991 World Series. Those are sweet spots. No question. They're in a different classification for sure. Because, as I mentioned, this was taking place during a break in the action. Those events, that was the action. It was winning the titles in both cases. I understand that. But I put them in a different sort of emotional category. See what other nominees we have here. This is brilliant. This is intended as a snarky moment that rivaled Flower. As in, maybe a little bit of satire. Jimmy Butler in the Rotunda at the Mall of America. That's brilliant. Very well played. And a non-sarcastic one, when KG came back to the Wolves late in his career, the pregame ceremony and video tribute was special. That's a good one. And for me, actually, and I don't know if it was that same night. It was when, oh my God, I can see him, but I can't remember. What's the name of the rather rotund dancer in the stands who took his shirt off again, reprised his old bit in trying to inspire the Timberwolves when Garnett returned? God, I can't think of his name. So the people will know. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686. Jiggly Boy. When Jiggly Boy resurfaced, that was now you could say that's not quite as dramatically solemn, but it was when the moment when KG saw him, smiled, pointed at him, and then patted his chest. That was a sweet spot sports moment too. It really was. It was greater than the sum of the parts of that particular moment. Negative Nate, how bitter is Fallness that you had the audacity to play the show open before getting directly to hockey talk? That's very, very well played. I already have heard from Fallness, actually. And I'm not sure he'll admit it publicly, but he enjoyed that open to the show. I don't think he was offended that we didn't literally open the show with the sound in this particular case. Terry writes, Muhammad Ali lighting the cauldron at the Atlanta Olympics. That's underrated and very, very good. It really was one of those sweet spot sports moments, no question. The Flower tribute reminds me of the Mariano Rivera farewell tour. The Twins gave him a rocking chair made of broken bats. That's Parker Fox's fat next-door neighbor guy checking in. Good one. Not on the same level, I don't think, but quite good. We were reminded by a source close to the program. If you want to delve back in history, July 4, 1939, Lou Gehrig announces his retirement, his farewell speech at Yankee Stadium. Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. That's a sweet spot. In the motion picture Pride of the Yankees, Gary Cooper was the actor who played Lou Gehrig, did a wonderful rendition of that speech. In fact, my recollection is that the real Babe Ruth was in that movie, playing himself. But the Gehrig speech, there's a Minnesota connection there because he was treated and diagnosed here at Mayo Clinic way back in the 30s. That's a really good example of when sports finds that sweet spot, going way back into our history. I'm glad that was brought up as well. Cal Ripken, his day of rest should rival most moments in sports. That will never be duplicated again. Yeah, the act itself was dramatic. I don't remember much about how it played out on the field, whether he was saluted, whether there was. I assume there was. My memory is not particularly good in that regard. Couple more. Well, this is a good point. As good as the Twins winning the 87 World Series is, if we want to do the comparison that's more parallel with what was represented or what last night represented in Montreal, it might well be what Texter Guy writes. Let's see if I can find it. I had it now. There's too many of them coming in. Where did it go? Well, I don't have the exact words, but his point was, what about when the Twins came back from wrapping up the ALCS in 87 to a full Metrodome pep rally? That's more of what was involved last night. Because, again, that was during a break there was no action. Nobody was playing at that point. It was during a break in the action. And the players have all, over the years, told stories about how stunned they expected a few thousand people in there, and the place was full. The Metrodome was full for that particular pep rally. Much smaller scale, writes 952 guy, but the crowd reaction to Teddy Bridgewater's mid-game return after his injury. That's a good one. That also, I think, is a very good one. I think for the purposes of being really accurate, it's more about those kinds of moments, the Lou Gehrig moments, the Twins coming into a full stadium to celebrate what they had already accomplished, as opposed to, 87 World Series, 91 World Series. Oh, my God! The Pete Burcich moment on the Minneapolis Miracle.
It's got to warm the heart.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's got to warm the heart, and that's what I think most of these moments have indeed done.
I have a question.
Sure.
Does Bug Grant coming out in 5-degree weather warm the heart for the coin toss?
It actually does.
I think it does.
It's not quite as majestic, but it's in the same classification. Yeah, you're right. It absolutely, I think, played that role, because I don't know if anybody saw it coming. And Bud was such a legend, and still is, but certainly was legendary, and it definitely got the crowd going for sure. Unfortunately, that was the wide left game, right? Had to be. Pretty sure. Talking about the more recent wide left game. Obviously, Gary Anderson wide left. The Blair Walsh. Yeah, yes. We got to get more specific. That part of it is there for sure. A lot of Mowers coming in, putting on the catching gear, and that falls into that same classification for sure. This is so unfair and mean of Willow Mark Rosen's cat guy. Tony Romo would have been shouting over the crowd. Maybe, I guess that's possible. Now, in all honesty, though, the sound we played in the video I saw last night, I don't know if that was anybody's broadcast or that was just from the PA system. So I don't know, actually I'm looking back on it. I think because I was watching it. I think they did let it. I think on, formerly known as Bally, now it's FanDuel. I think the crew did let the thing breathe. I mean, that's one where you just, the question there is always, when do you start talking? And the beauty of it was, I think, finally play resumed. And then it became easy to say, all right, we're going to jump back in. This has worked out great for, Louis. Lou Nanny doesn't do very much color analysis on TV anymore, obviously. And this is the 4-game road trip he picked. And look how good it's been so far. Not just good, but historic with what took place last night. It could, having him in on that, hockey history himself is tremendous. That's just like the cherry on top of the entire story. Watch the net celebration. Faber's expression, he looked like a kid in a candy store. Dean from Hermantown. I've never seen anything like that, Dan, and I'm soon to be 62. I had tears and goosebumps, and that just seems crazy. Montreal Canadiens, in my opinion, the greatest North American pro sports team ever. Well, they're in the discussion. Ain't much. I don't even think that can be even debatable, can it? With their record. Now they're not very good right now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they're in that classification. There's absolutely no question about it. I mean, my Blackhawk years going back to the mid to late '60s, they were the death knell, man. They just had just ridiculous talent after more talent. The uniforms were cool. The venue was cool. No, that's royalty. There's not really much question about that. A lot of goosebumps coming in. Incredibly classy move. Thanks for playing it again. Unbelievable to see the crowd give that much respect to a goalie. And yes, I got choked up. So true, writes Tim and Walker. What a great moment. It's become the only reason I watch sports anymore is to see something like that or an incredible play and jack the volume for the crowd reaction. Sometimes the affirmation is the sweetest thing. Watched it on my phone here in Omaha. Definitely teared up. Totally amazing moment. I was in Montreal in October 2023 with a friend who was a local. The excitement that all the locals had to see Fleury potentially for the last time was palpable. Even though the Wild crushed them that game, the joy they had to see Fleury overcame, the pain of losing. Great decision to start with the tear-provoking moment. So glad they let this moment breathe, as you would say. A true ESPY moment. No joke or BS. There are times I enjoy listening to you. It sounds like they might be few and far between, but apparently this was one of it. One of those. You nailed it. Those comments so accurate. No Gerby. Tuning out now. I'm sorry, Zach. I'm sorry. I can't produce him today. I'm not even sure if he would. He still might be milking the voice issue, but we'll in good time. All it does is add to the anticipation for next week when we have the award-winning predictions segment before Super Bowl number. Is it 59? I think it's Super Bowl number 59. I kind of blew through the break, so why don't we go? Let's go ahead and do the straddle the right way. We'll go to about 41 or 42, and then we'll catch up. I got to get your. I don't know if you and I have discussed this, but I'm not as offended with the matchup as it appears most of America is. I get, with the Eagles, I think most of what the Eagles has to do with the fans. It's not that the team is disliked so much as the fans. But Kansas City Chiefs, I don't think they're that unlikable. You may be tired of their presence, but then it's the old, beat them. I mean, it's like, what are they supposed to do? Go belly up? Half the time, what do we clamor for? We want teams that can stay good for a while, that aren't fluky. We want to believe that these teams are legitimate. And then we get those kinds of teams that, in this case, has a chance to do something that's never been done in the history of the Super Bowl, modern football era. And we're whining about it. We're bitter. Oh, God. I got to see more shots of Kelsey and his slightly more famous girlfriend in the beautiful people. What do we call those? Luxury boxes, the State Farm commercials, the bummerooski, we're happy for you. And I get that. That does get a little bit old, but I'm not going to get mad at a team that continues to reinvent itself as effectively as it does. Beat them. Knock them off. And I agree. In my view, they got a couple of very lucky calls that went their way that shouldn't have. But let's be honest. We don't know automatically that the Bills win that game if they get those calls. They might have. I think they deserved at least one of those two calls. And we'll never know. That's the frustrating part about it. But what are we mad at here? Mahomes is historic. I guess the same thing you could say happened with the Patriots to an extent. But I was doing the same thing then. I'm aroused by excellence. I'm sorry, I've said it. I mean it. And are they not excellent? Not in a dominant way this year. But what difference does that make? Somebody said this the other day. Was it you? That this is not. There's no. This isn't like gymnastics, where you either win or you lose on the basis of do you have more points than the other team at the end of the game? Style points don't mean anything in this sport. They can enhance the experience, but what are they? What are they? Are you one of these people who are like, I'm tired of Kansas City?
I mean, if there was the angry Russian judge, sure, they probably wouldn't be doing very well. They maybe not have had the one seed, but hey, they're winning games. And that's the beauty of it. Here's my thought on the matchup itself. If you're an X's and O's guy, if you're a football guy, and I want to see some great scheme chess match, I think it's going to be a really good game. I think it's two really good football teams. I definitely don't want to see the Eagles win, and you're right. It's just the fan factor, and I would rather have a three-peat than the Eagles win anything, frankly. And am I sick of the Chiefs? Kinda. Not really. But they're just so good. And every time you watch them, Mahomes makes some circus miracular throw that no one else could do. Am I sick of the fake sliding? Sure.
Yeah, that's worth criticizing 100%.
Yeah, and when you have a team that wins that much, I was just talking about this the other day with somebody. I was like, those missed calls, the breaks that they get, we're not talking about the call that the Browns got in week 4 that, changed the game. But you just remember every time the Chiefs, it just sticks out in your memory. True. So I'm not in on the whole conspiracy theory, but I'm not sick of them, to answer your question, but I could understand how people are.
These two teams are a combined 29-5.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, I've kind of underrated the Eagles because early in the playoffs, I didn't think they looked all that good against your club. They, okay. And now I feel like
a lot of self-beating for the Green Bay there.
There was, that's true. But I mean, they're here, and they obviously have a couple of. Then they're unique. I mean, that's the other thing. Forget the fans part. Just aesthetically, they are kind of a throwback. I mean, they're modern in that they have a running quarterback, but they're a throwback in that they've got an old-fashioned just breakaway running back threat that we think of the old days of Adrian Peterson, or if you go back further, Eric Dickerson and Walter Payton, whatever. That's what Saquon Barkley represents. That makes them, I think, pretty interesting. They're built through the draft just remarkably well. It's largely a homegrown team that's been put together, and so neither of these teams are fluky at all when you factor in the record and the way they got here. So again, and here's the other thing: if we're being honest, in the end, how many people are not going to watch because of the feelings that I've been here before too many times? 4? I mean, the numbers are going to be absurd, and to be honest, part of the reason the numbers are absurd is everybody's waiting. Can somebody knock off Kansas City? That's it. And that's fine. That's a good story at line. It's the old, are they going to make history, or are they going to indeed get knocked off? So I don't have any problems with that. On the Mahomes milking the personal foul penalty on roughing the pass. Yeah, I get that. That has become annoying. We have talked about that. But it's sort of hard to argue with his success and what he's able to do pretty much year after year after year. Barkley has paid, this is from Linwood Township guy, has paid his dues, and I dislike Mahomes' new flop potential. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will be rooting for the Eagles, notwithstanding their hatred of the fans, just because they do want to see Kansas City not make that history. I'm fine with either way. I'd like to see a good ball game, but I think it's a good matchup, and I'm not going to get mad at Kansas City for being as good as long as they've been good, and Andy Reid being at the top of his game for as long as he's been. With, by the way, not a particularly impressive BMI, right? I don't think that would be classified one of the best BMIs, like your guy and our guy and the Rams guy and several of the other guys who got great BMIs, but all we know is Andy Reid just keeps getting to the Super Bowl.
Kevin O'Connell isn't going on national TV to eat chicken nuggets.
I get it. A 612 guy, most fans want parody, Dan, although he spelled parody Parody. I think he means Parity.
I'd like a serious game.
Well, seeing the same team 2 or 3 years in a row is great, but we want to see parity. We want to see new teams to the new teams, and then we should rise to the occasion, build up, not have the sport dominated here over year of the same team, same people, same celebrities. Yeah, that part I get, but I'm still not as offended by it as other people, because I think I have some admiration for the ability. I don't care if you have Patrick Mahomes or not. I don't think in 2022, 3, 4, 5, it's all that easy to maintain that level of excellence. I don't. I mean, there's a million reasons why it's tougher and tougher, free agency included, and a lot of other. I know it's always easier if you have a player as good as Mahomes, but that I don't think we should roll our eyes at that to the degree that we do, especially when, as I said, what's funny about the parody thing is sometimes what we hear is, well, they're kind of fluky. Are they really any good? They're okay. They kind of, I don't know, they lucked out. Such and such team got eliminated. They didn't even have to play them. And so it sometimes I feel like we, complain for the sake of complaining. Now, the extracurricular activity of the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously involving their tight end and a certain singer. I get it that you say, oh God, I've had enough of that. And, Buffalo to that extent is fresher. On the other hand, I mean, Buffalo has been knocking at the door forever, and why aren't we tired of them? Same quarterback, right? Same coach, really good records. But so I have always wanted greatness to be part of whatever sport I'm interested in, because even if you despise the team that is great year in and year out, it sets a standard. Other teams go after that. And even if you want to live in the world of love and hate, if a team's just average or above average and makes a run, they ain't worth hating. The teams that are worth hating in any sport, go back to Duke in basketball under Coach K and so many others, are the ones that are really good. They're not ones that are up and down. And, that's why I never was bothered by the Lakers and Celtics back in the 80s dominating the NBA, or the Chicago Bulls for a while dominating the NBA. Golden State Warriors more recently. That never bothered, Now, the NFL, I know, represents a feeling of where there's a real chance that our team can go from 4-13 to 13-4 more than other sports. That's true, and that's fine, but I don't think that ever built into that was you're likely also in that year you reverse it, you're going to win a Super Bowl, or even necessarily get to the Super Bowl. Here's an oldie but a goodie. This is from G-Gas out of Mendota Heights. G-Gas. 1991 Stanley Cup Finals. Game 6, Penguins destroy the North Stars 8-0 at the Met to win the Cup. We stayed and gave a standing ovation to the Penguins for winning the Cup. There was no booing. Great example of sportsmanship. I was at that game writing a column for the Star Tribune. I don't remember. I'll take his word for it. I probably was too busy trying to find my snarky lines to rip the North Stars for getting just humiliated in that game to the degree that they did. That was that improbable run year where they were, I think their record was something like 27-39 and however number of ties would be involved to get you to 82. And then they made this improbable playoff run, and then eventually the Penguins destroyed them 8-0. You remember? You're too young. You weren't even born for that game.
No, I wasn't. Right? I was -5. Speaking of dynasties, though, I was sick of the Patriots. In the height of I was over it.
Was it the scandal part?
It was everything.
Deflategate?
Well, at least Mahomes and Kelsey are not like, to our public knowledge, just bad people, but there are just some bad guys on that team that do shady. They weren't likable at all, and their fans weren't likable. Like diehard Kansas City, born and raised in Missouri fans are probably sweet Midwestern people, but they're just the whole package. When the Patriots at their peak of their powers, I was out. I was sick of them.
This is from Dr. Phil out of St. Michael. Here's how I break it down, or here's how it breaks down for me, Dan. I also appreciate excellence, and yes, I want parity, but you start to see the bending of the rules, a.k.a. the Mahomes quarterback slide, and then you see the refs allow it to continue. And for me, the biggest thing is now I have to watch Mahomes, his arms up in the air, complain every passing play that there wasn't holding called. I hate to tell you, Dr. Phil, there's a lot of quarterbacks who do that pretty extensively. I don't think that's just a Mahomes thing at all, to be honest with you. There was a lot of that. Interesting from 218 guy, I'm more tired of watching Josh Allen fail than I am of watching Patrick Mahomes win. Exactly. You know, I don't know why we look at it so differently, but again, I mean, did the calls help Kansas City? Yeah. Do I know that means Buffalo was going to win the game? No, I can't say that I do. By the way, I think what's happening on some of these texts is they are talk to text. So some of the words are, you know, it gets a little bit difficult sometimes to translate it. We have a little bit of that going on. Linwood Township guy, I appreciate your conversation with Sam Mitchell. You and your top shelf guests are great. Yeah, Sam was very good yesterday. If you missed it, I think you could probably find it via the podcast. KC already made history as the only team to make 3 consecutive Super Bowls and 5 in 6 years. How about the Packers extending special teams coordinator guy Brett and Davey? Must be loving that. Are you bitter about that?
I'm indifferent. He's fine. It is what it is. He didn't make Keyshawn Nixon fumble the ball in the first play. That I'm still mad about.
That's true. That's fair to say.
Yeah.
Just found on DraftKings. This is from Texter Patrick. On DraftKings, you can get 10K to 1 odds on a what in the Super Bowl? A palpable unfair act in the Super Bowl. That was a term that we've learned that we just heard out of the Eagles Commanders game. If you recall, that was when there were 3 straight encroachment penalties at the goal line against Washington, and after the third one, the ref said, you do it again, basically we're going to award them points, as in that's called a palpable unfair act. And apparently you can get 10,000 to 1 odds that there will be a palpable unfair act committed during Super Bowl 59 as an example of just how obscure and arcane things can get when it comes to. You said you were in Vegas for several days. Did you make any bets?
Maybe.
Well,
maybe
not. There's not anything illegal about it.
No. I mean,
I'm not ripping you.
I played a little blackjack,
okay.
But that's it. I didn't do any sports betting.
No
but
sports betting.
I did sit in the Circa Sports Betting Lounge for quite a while, watching a lot of the games.
Really?
Oh, yeah, it's fun time.
Well, it is. Those rooms, I haven't been in them in years, but I remember them from back, and they probably weren't even as sophisticated and huge then as they are now. And if you're just into, for me, the buzz of Vegas is simply that. It's the activity. It's the buzz. It's the lights. It's this feeling like it. Whenever you show up in one of those rooms, it's going to be nothing but activity, right? And if you're in the mood for that, it's great. It's hard not to get caught up in the buzz of it all, right?
Yeah. Well, here's my thing, too, that I found out, because this is my first time. Everything just costs a stupid amount of money.
Yes.
So, like, you know,
except for the buffets. They're still not that bad, are they?
Yeah, no, they're still good.
Okay.
But, like, you know that, I think it's at Circa, too. It's the pool with giant TV where they watch all the sports, and there's giant pools and bars. I just wanted to go up and see, just to say, I've seen it. There it is. All right, I'm going back down. $25 just to go up. Just to see it. And there was no one even there.
That does seem a bit excessive.
And they had like 2 security guards. Ride the roller coaster, $25 to ride the roller coaster. It's ridiculous. Just everything.
Yeah.
So,
well,
whatever.
They got to make ends meet in Vegas. You know.
Yeah, I know. They don't make a lot of money out there.
4 o'clock hour will include a visit with Ben Gessling. That'll be about 4:30. Stay tuned.